Olivia's breath stops when she sees the tattoo on Kang Tae-jun's forearm, a Korean phoenix identical to the one her mother has hidden for 24 years. The crime lord's eyes go cold. Where did you see that design? My mother. She has the exact same one. His glass shatters on marble. The room empties in seconds. This is how buried love comes back to life. 3 hours earlier, Olivia had been running late for the biggest catering job of her career. The exclusive event at the Kang estate wasn't just another gig. The pay for one night would cover her mother's medication for 2 months. At 25, she'd gotten used to juggling 3 jobs to keep them afloat, but this opportunity felt different. Dangerous maybe, but necessary. Girl, are you sure about this? Her best friend Maya had asked while helping her into the crisp white server's uniform. Everyone knows Kang Tae-jun's parties. People go in, but some don't come out the same. Olivia had laughed it off, securing her natural curls into an elegant low bun. It's just serving drinks, Maya. I'll be invisible. Rich people never really see the help anyway. How wrong she'd been. The Kang compound rose in Gangnam like a fortress of steel and glass. Security stopped her car 3 times before she even reached the service entrance. By the time Olivia joined the other servers in the staging area, her heart hammered against her ribs. Remember, the head caterer whispered sharply. Eyes down, mouths shut. Mr. Kang values discretion above all else. You see nothing, you hear nothing, you say nothing. Understand? 20 servers nodded in unison. The party itself was unlike anything Olivia had imagined. Everyone moved with purpose, with awareness. She recognized faces from the news, businessmen, politicians, people who shaped Seoul from the shadows. And then there was Kang Tae-jun himself. Olivia had seen photos. Of course, everyone in Seoul knew the face of the man who controlled half the city's underground operations. But pictures hadn't captured the raw magnetism of his presence. He stood near floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Han River, a glass of whiskey in hand, surveying his domain like a king. Tall and powerfully built, with dark hair touched with silver at the temples. He wore authority like a second skin. She guessed he was in his late 40s, though his face was ageless in its severity. She'd been careful all night to avoid direct contact. Served drinks to his guests. Refilled champagne flutes. Cleared empty plates. Invisible. Just as she'd planned. Until Kang Tae-jun reached for a glass from her tray, and his sleeve rode up. The tattoo stopped her heart. A phoenix rising from flames, rendered in traditional Korean style with intricate details, wings spread wide, tail feathers flowing. The exact same design her mother had on her left forearm. The tattoo Grace had covered religiously. The one she'd never explained, despite Olivia's countless questions. Olivia's sharp intake of breath made Tae-jun's eyes snap to her face. For a moment, the noise of the party faded. His gray eyes narrowed, studying her with an intensity that felt like being X-rayed. Something wrong? His voice was deeper than she expected. Rough velvet over steel. No, sir, she stammered, lowering her gaze. I apologize, but she'd hesitated a second too long. Looked at his tattoo a moment too intensely. Tae-jun's hand shot out, gripping her wrist not painfully, but firmly enough to keep her in place. What's your name? Olivia. Olivia. He repeated it slowly, as if testing the name for hidden meanings. Then his eyes traveled back to the tray in her hands, to the way she couldn't stop staring at his forearm. You recognize this tattoo? It wasn't a question. Olivia's professional mask crumbled. My mother, she has the same one. The glass in Tae-jun's other hand stopped halfway to his lips. Around them, conversations continued. But Olivia felt the shift in the air. Several of his men had noticed their boss's sudden interest in a server. Your mother, Tae-jun repeated, his voice dangerously soft. What's her name? Sir, I really should get back to Bai. Her name. Steel wrapped in silk. Grace. The name fell from Olivia's lips like a confession. Whatever Kang Tae-jun had expected to hear, it wasn't that. Shattering against the marble floor, the entire ballroom went silent. Everyone out, Tae-jun commanded, his voice cutting through the shocked stillness. Boss, what? Out. The roar made Olivia flinch. Within 2 minutes, the ballroom cleared. She'd never felt more exposed, more vulnerable, standing in her server's uniform while the most powerful criminal in Seoul stared at her like she was a ghost made flesh. Taejun, one of his men older, with salt and pepper hair and calculating eyes, stepped forward. What's going on? What's going on? But Taejun ignored him. His attention remained fixed on Olivia with laser focus. How old are you? 25. Something flickered across his face. Pain, maybe. Or recognition. When's your birthday? September 12th, sir. I don't understand what. Grace? Taejun interrupted, his voice rough with emotion she couldn't identify. Brown skin, natural hair, scar on her left shoulder from a childhood burn. Laugh that sounds like music. Worked as a nurse 26 years ago. Olivia's blood turned to ice. How do you know my mother? Taejun turned away, running a hand through his hair in a gesture that looked utterly unlike the controlled man she'd observed all evening. When he faced her again, his expression had transformed into something raw and unguarded. Because 24 years ago, he said quietly, I loved her more than life itself, and I thought she was dead. Before you continue, hit subscribe, because what starts as a tattoo revelation becomes a family's resurrection. The revelation hung in the air like smoke after gunfire. Olivia's mind raced, trying to reconcile the cold, dangerous man before her with the shadowy figure from her mother's past. The one Grace had never named, never spoken about except in fragments and tears. That's impossible, Olivia whispered. My mother never mentioned you. She always said, my father died before I was born. Taejun's jaw clenched. She told you your father was dead? She said he was killed. That she barely escaped with her life. I was told she died in the massacre. Taejun's words came out harsh, clipped. The gang attack that killed 15 people. They found remains. Her identification matched. I buried an empty casket, Olivia. I mourned her for years. What massacre? What are you talking about? Taejun gestured to his lieutenant. Min-jae, bring me the file. The Incheon incident. 2001. While Min-jae left the room, Taejun poured himself another drink with hands that weren't quite steady. Olivia noticed details she'd missed before, the fine lines around his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. The white scar cutting through his left eyebrow. The way he carried himself like a man who'd learned to armor his heart. Your mother and I met at Seoul National University Hospital, Taejun began, his voice distant with memory. I'd been shot. Territorial dispute. Nothing that matters now. Grace was my nurse. She was 22, fresh out of nursing school, and so damn beautiful she made my heart stop. Despite everything, Olivia found herself leaning in. Her mother never spoke about this time. Never explained the haunted look she got when old love songs played on the radio. We fell in love, Taejun continued, fast and hard and completely. I knew what I was, knew the life I led would put her in danger. I tried to stay away. His laugh was bitter. That lasted all of 2 weeks. Grace said she didn't care about the danger, said she loved me anyway. Min-jae returned with a worn file folder. Taejun spread photographs across the table, crime scene images of a burned-out building, forensic reports, newspaper clippings with headlines about gang violence and innocent casualties. My enemies found out about Grace, Taejun said flatly. A rival organization trying to take my territory. They grabbed her from the hospital parking lot, left me a message saying if I wanted her back, I'd have to trade myself. Olivia's heart clenched. This matched the fragments her mother had whispered during nightmares. The darkness, the fear, the feeling of being trapped. I went to make the trade, Taejun continued. But when I arrived at the warehouse in Incheon, the building was already burning. Explosion took out the whole structure. They found 6 bodies inside, burned beyond recognition. The forensic team used personal effects and dental records to identify the victims. He tapped one of the reports. Grace's identification matched one of the bodies. But it wasn't her, Olivia said softly. No. Taejun's gray eyes met hers, and she saw the abyss of grief he'd carried. It wasn't her. Someone faked those records. Someone helped her disappear so completely that even I, with all my resources, all my connections, never found a trace. The implications crashed over Olivia like a wave. Her entire life had been built on a lie. Her mother hadn't been running from Taejun's enemies. She'd been running from Taejun himself. Or at least, that's what Grace must have believed. Why would she run from you? Olivia asked. If you loved each other. Taejun was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. The night she was taken, I made a choice. I called in every favor, activated every soldier in my organization. I was ready to burn down half of Seoul to get her back. My uncle, the previous head of our family, he told me I was being reckless. That one woman wasn't worth starting a war. What did you do? I told him Grace was worth 1,000 wars. Taejun's smile was sharp and painful. I chose her over everything. My position, my family's approval, my own safety. But maybe... He paused, and Olivia saw the doubt that had clearly haunted him for decades. Maybe she saw what I became that night. The violence I was capable of. The darkness I unleashed trying to save her. Maybe she saw the monster and decided she needed to disappear from that too. Olivia thought of her mother, gentle Grace, who flinched at loud noises, who checked the locks 3 times every night, who'd raised her daughter with fierce love and fiercer protectiveness. She thought of the tattoo her mother covered but never removed, of the way Grace's eyes went distant every September, of the old jewelry box hidden in the closet with a single dried rose inside. She kept the tattoo, Olivia said quietly. All these years, she kept it. She could have had it removed, covered up, but she never did. Taejun's expression cracked just for a moment, revealing the man beneath the armor. The Phoenix, he said roughly. We got them together. She said it represented rising from our pasts, her from hardship, me from violence. We were going to build something new together. She never married, Olivia added, never dated. I used to ask her why, and she'd just say that some loves come once in a lifetime. Grace is alive. Taejun spoke the words like a prayer and a curse combined. After all these years, she's alive. Where is she, Olivia? Inevitable. She's senti now, she's senti 92, Olivia. The question hung between them. Loaded. Dangerous. Full of possibility and threat. Olivia straightened her spine, meeting Taejun's intense gaze with newfound courage. She's safe. And before I tell you anything else, I need to understand something. Are you going to hurt her? Hurt her? Taejun looked stunned. I spent 24 years grieving her. I never married, never moved on, never stopped seeing her face in my dreams. Grace was the only woman I ever loved. Why would I hurt her? Because she ran from you, Olivia challenged. Because she let you think she was dead. Because she kept your daughter from you. The last words dropped like a bomb. Taejun went absolutely still. What did you say? Olivia's hands trembled, but she forced herself to continue. I was born September 12th, 2001. 9 months after the warehouse fire. My mother always told me my father died before I was born. But the timeline... She swallowed hard. The timeline matches, doesn't it? Taejun sank into his chair, as if his legs could no longer support him. You're mine, he breathed. Grace was pregnant. She was carrying my child, and she let me believe both of you were dead. She thought she was protecting me, Olivia said, though she wasn't sure if she was defending her mother or explaining for her own benefit. From your world. From the danger. end. She didn't give me a choice. Taejun's voice was raw. 24 years, Olivia. I missed 24 years of your life. First steps, first words, first day of school, everything. The pain in his voice was so real, so human, that Olivia felt her defenses crumbling. This was a man who'd lost everything, and was only now discovering what had been taken from him. I need to see her, Taejun said urgently, standing again. I need to talk to Grace. Where is she? Where is she? Where is she? I can't just, please. The single word, softened by something almost gentle in his expression, cut through her resistance. I won't hurt her. I won't force anything, but I've spent over 2 decades mourning a ghost. I need to understand why she ran. I need... His voice broke. I need to tell her I'm sorry for not saving her soon enough. Olivia's phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from her mother. Asterisk. Hope the job is going well, baby. Don't forget your jacket. Love you. Asterisk. Looking at that simple message, Olivia made a decision that would change everything. She's at our apartment, Olivia said quietly. But we do this my way. I call her first. Prepare her. You don't show up with guns and soldiers. You come alone. And you give her the choice to see you or not. Can you do that? Taejun nodded slowly. Whatever she needs, whatever you both need. And one more thing, Olivia added, channeling every ounce of strength she'd inherited from her mother. If you break her heart again, if you bring danger to our door, or make her regret staying alive, I don't care how powerful you are. I will make you regret it. For the first time that night, Taejun smiled. A real smile that transformed his harsh features into something almost gentle. You have your mother's fire, he said softly. And apparently mine too. I wouldn't expect anything less from my daughter. The drive to Olivia's apartment felt surreal. She sat in the back of Taejun's armored Genesis GV80, because apparently her father traveled nowhere without security, trying to process the fact that she'd used the word times father times in her thoughts. Taejun had kept his promise about coming alone, but alone meant dismissing his bodyguards to the street level while he came upstairs with just Min Jae, who waited in the building lobby. Olivia had called her mother during the drive, keeping her voice carefully neutral. Mom, something happened tonight. Something important. I need you to sit down. Baby, what's wrong? Are you hurt? Diana's instant panic reminded Olivia of a lifetime of her mother's protective instincts. I'm fine, but I'm bringing someone home. Someone you need to see. Olivia took a breath. Kang Taejun is alive, Mom, and he knows about me. The silence on the other end lasted so long Olivia thought the call had dropped. Then came a sound that broke her heart, her mother's sob. Raw and full of 24 years of suppressed grief. I thought I had more time, Grace whispered. I thought I could protect you longer. Mom, he thought you were dead. Both of us are dead. He's been grieving for over 2 decades. Another sob. I know. God help me, Olivia. I know. Now, standing outside their modest apartment door, Olivia watched Taejun transform. The powerful crime lord had given way to a nervous man who'd checked his appearance in every reflective surface during the elevator ride. Fixed his hair 3 times. Olivia might have found it endearing if her own heart wasn't hammering with anxiety. She might not want to see me, Taejun said quietly. Then you leave. Olivia confirmed. No arguments. No force. He nodded, but his jaw was tight with tension. Olivia unlocked the door. Their apartment was small, a 1-bedroom in a working-class neighborhood of Itaewon. Nothing like Taejun's compound. But it was clean, filled with plants Grace lovingly tended, and decorated with photos chronicling Olivia's entire life. Taejun's eyes went immediately to those photos, drinking in every image of the daughter he'd never known. Grace stood in the living room, and Olivia's breath caught. Her mother had changed into a simple blue dress, the one she saved for important occasions. Her natural hair was swept back, showing the graceful lines of her face. And on her left forearm, visible for the first time in Olivia's memory, was the phoenix tattoo. She looked terrified and heartbroken and somehow impossibly hopeful. "Taejun," Grace breathed. "Grace." His voice cracked on her name. They stood frozen, separated by 20 feet and 24 years of pain. Olivia felt like an intruder in this moment, but she couldn't leave. She needed to see this through. "You're alive," Taejun said, moving forward slowly, as if approaching a frightened bird. "All this time, you've been alive. I'm so sorry." Tears streamed down Grace's face. "I'm so sorry, Taejun. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought, why?" The single word held universes of pain. "Why did you let me believe you were dead? Why did you take my daughter and disappear?" Grace's composure shattered. She sank onto the couch, covering her face with her hands. Olivia moved to her mother's side instinctively, but Grace gestured for her to stay back. "After the explosion," Grace began, her voice muffled, "I woke up in a basement, 2 provinces away. A man I never learned his real name told me he'd pulled me from the warehouse before it blew. Said he was a national intelligence agent who'd been monitoring your organization." Taejun's expression went cold. "That's not what happened. That's not what happened. That's not what happened. That's not what happened. I know that now," Grace said, looking up with red-rimmed eyes. "But then, I was terrified, Taejun. I'd just survived being kidnapped and nearly killed. I was pregnant, and this agent told me that if I went back, your enemies would use me and our baby to destroy you. He said the only way to keep everyone safe was for me to disappear completely. You believed him. It wasn't quite an accusation, but close. I was 22 years old, pregnant, and traumatized." Grace's voice rose. "He showed me photos of other families torn apart by gang wars, children caught in crossfire. He said if I truly loved you, I'd give you a chance at a clean start. No liabilities, no weaknesses for enemies to exploit." "You were never a liability," Taejun said roughly. "You were everything." "I was scared," Grace whispered. "Scared of losing you. Scared of losing our baby. Scared of the violence I'd seen. That night you mobilized your entire organization." "Taejun." "I heard the stories afterward. The people who died, the destruction, the way you tore through the city looking for me. I thought our baby deserved a chance at a normal life." Olivia felt the words like a physical blow. Her entire childhood, the moves between neighborhoods, her mother's constant vigilance, the poverty they'd endured had all been about giving her safety and normalcy. Grace had sacrificed everything, including her own happiness, for that goal. "Did I have a normal life?" Olivia asked quietly, drawing both parents' attention. "We moved 6 times before I was 10. You worked yourself to exhaustion at jobs that barely paid rent. I watched you cry yourself to sleep more nights than I can count. You were so busy protecting me from a danger that wasn't coming, that you never let yourself heal. Baby," Grace started. "And you," Olivia turned to Taejun, "spent 24 years grieving instead of living. Building an empire, but never a family. You were so buried in your pain that you didn't question the evidence, didn't dig deeper, didn't consider that someone might have wanted you both to suffer." The silence that followed was heavy with realization. "Someone played us," Taejun said slowly, his tactical mind engaging. "Someone wanted Grace gone and wanted me destroyed by grief. Someone who benefited from both. Your uncle," Grace said suddenly. "The one who didn't want you to start a war over me. What happened to him?" Taejun's eyes widened. "He took over as head of the family after I stepped back. Said I was too compromised by grief to lead effectively. I let him because understanding washing over his features, because I didn't care anymore. Without you, it all felt Meaningless. And he would have had the connections to fake identification records, Grace added, her nurse's mind working through the logistics. Access to morgues, coroners on payroll. His men probably pulled you from the warehouse. Taejun continued. Not a government agent. Someone working for him who convinced you that your death, your disappearance, would protect everyone. Olivia watched her parents piece together the conspiracy that had stolen their lives. The anger, the grief, the wasted years. All because one man had wanted power and had been willing to destroy his own nephew's happiness to get it. He's dead, Taejun said flatly. Heart attack 5 years ago. Died peacefully in his sleep. Good, Grace said with surprising venom. Because if he were still alive, I'd kill him myself. The fierce declaration hung in the air. And then, impossibly, Taejun laughed. A real laugh that seemed to surprise him as much as it did them. That's the Grace I remember. All gentleness and compassion until someone threatens her family. Then she becomes a warrior. Grace's lips twitched despite her tears. I haven't changed as much as you might think. Taejun moved closer, kneeling in front of the couch so he was at eye level with Grace. I don't want to waste another day, he said quietly. I lost 24 years with you, with our daughter. I can't get that time back. But if you'll let me, I want to be part of your lives now. However you'll have me, whatever role you're comfortable with. I can't lose you again. Grace reached out with trembling fingers, touching Taejun's face, like she needed to confirm he was real. I never stopped loving you, she whispered. I told myself I was over it, that I'd moved on, but I never stopped. I've been in love with a ghost for 24 years. I'm not a ghost, Taejun said, covering her hand with his. I'm right here, and I'm not going anywhere. They leaned into each other, foreheads touching, tears mixing as they held on like lifelines. Olivia watched her parents reconnect, feeling something she'd never experienced before: hope. For the first time in her life, the fractured pieces of her family were beginning to align. Then Taejun's phone buzzed with an urgent alert. He ignored it the first time, but when it buzzed again immediately. What is it? Grace asked, reading his change in demeanor instantly. Taejun checked the message, and his face went cold. Someone just fired shots into my compound gate, and they left a message spray-painted on the wall. Asterisk. The past rises. Kang blood for Kang lies. Olivia's stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means, Taejun said grimly, pulling out his phone to make calls, that someone knows Grace is alive, and they're not happy about it. Thanks for watching. Watching this 40 passes. And they're not happy about it. And they're not happy about it. Within 15 minutes, Taejun had transformed their modest apartment into a command center. Min-jae and 4 other trusted soldiers secured the building's perimeter, while Taejun worked the phones, his voice clipped and authoritative as he gathered intelligence. Grace packed essential items with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd fled danger before. And Olivia tried to process that her reunion with her father had immediately thrown them into the kind of danger her mother had spent a lifetime avoiding. It's Kang Jae-won, Min-jae reported, entering the apartment with his weapon holstered but clearly ready. Your uncle's son. He just got released from prison yesterday. No one thought to flag it because he's been inside for 20 years. Taejun's jaw clenched. My cousin. He was one of the ones pushing your uncle to take control after Grace's supposed death. Min-jae continued. He would have been 19 when the warehouse fire happened, old enough to be involved in the conspiracy, Grace said, her voice steady despite the fear Olivia could see in her eyes. Old enough to want revenge for his father's death, Taejun corrected. When my uncle died, Jae-won blamed me for not being there, for abandoning the family. Olivia's mind raced. So he knows about Mom? About me? Prison intelligence networks are extensive, Min-jae said grimly. If Jae-won had eyes on Taejun, he would have seen Olivia at the party tonight. would have noticed the boss's reaction. And now he wants to finish what was started 24 years ago, Taejun concluded. Destroy my family to punish me. Grace moved to Olivia instinctively, putting herself between her daughter and potential danger, just as she'd done for 24 years. But this time, Taejun moved too, positioning himself to shield them both. We have options, Taejun said, his tactical mind clearly working through scenarios. I can get you both out of the country within hours. New identities, protection, everything you need. You disappear again. But this time with my resources to keep you truly safe. No. Grace's voice was firm. I spent 24 years running Taejun. I won't do it again. I won't let Olivia grow up the way I did. Then we end this. Taejun said simply. I called Jaewon. Arrange a meeting. Settle this once and for all. You mean you'll kill him? Olivia said flatly. Taejun didn't deny it. I'll do whatever is necessary to protect you both. There has to be another way, Olivia insisted. Some option that doesn't involve more death, Min-jae snorted. Miss Olivia, with all respect, your father's world doesn't work that way. Jaewon came at us. He drew blood. The only language he understands is strength. But Olivia had inherited her mother's compassionate heart, and apparently her father's strategic mind. An idea was forming, risky, probably crazy, but possible. What if, she said slowly, we give Jaewon what he actually wants? 3 pairs of eyes turned to her. He doesn't just want us dead, Olivia continued, thinking it through. If he did, he would have ambushed us, hired assassins, made it quick. But he announced himself, left a message. He wants Taejun to suffer the way he suffered. So? Min-jae asked, clearly not following. So we use that. Olivia looked at her father. You said your uncle took over because you were too grief-stricken to lead. That Jaewon blames you for abandoning the family. What if that's what this is really about? Not revenge, resentment. He lost his father and gained a cousin who stopped caring about the family business. Taejun shook his head. Olivia, I understand what you're trying to do, but Jaewon is dangerous. Giving him an audience won't change. I'm not suggesting you give him an audience, Olivia interrupted. I'm suggesting you give him something more valuable, the truth about what his father did. The conspiracy that destroyed your life and corrupted his father's soul. Make him see that the enemy wasn't you. It was the lies his father built. That's a significant gamble, Grace said quietly. But Olivia could see the hope in her mother's eyes. But it might work, Grace continued. Jaewon was just a teenager when this started. If his father lied to him too, manipulated him into carrying this grudge, we could reach the boy who got caught in his father's schemes. Instead of killing the man who spent 20 years in prison nursing hatred, Taejun finished, understanding dawning. Min-jae looked skeptical. Boss, this assumes Jaewon can be reasoned with. That he'll care about truth over revenge. It's worth trying, Taejun said, and Olivia saw the man her mother had fallen in love with someone willing to seek peace before defaulting to violence. Min-jae, arrange a meeting. Neutral location, just me and Jaewon, but have backup positioned within striking distance if this goes wrong. We'll be ready, Min-jae confirmed. The next few hours passed in intense preparation. Taejun made calls, arranged the meeting for dawn at an abandoned pier on the Han River neutral ground that neither side controlled. Grace sat with Olivia, holding her hand, both of them terrified and trying not to show it. You don't have to do this, Grace said to Taejun as he prepared to leave. We can run. We're good at running. Taejun cupped her face gently. I'm done running. Done letting fear dictate our lives. 24 years ago, I couldn't save you. But I can save us now. Save our family. Our future. Our chance at happiness. I won't lose that again. Then I'm coming with you, Grace said firmly. Absolutely not. Taejun. Grace's voice was steel, wrapped in silk. He destroyed my life too, took my daughter's father, forced me into hiding, made me live in fear. I deserve to face him. Mom. Olivia started. I'm coming too, she said, cutting off the inevitable protest. Taejun looked between his two fierce women, both ready to fight, neither willing to be protected at the cost of their agency. His expression softened into something like wonder and resignation. You're both completely insane, he said, and I love you for it. But we do this smart. You stay in the vehicle with Min Jae, armored and protected. If shooting starts, you drive away immediately. Agreed? Agreed, Grace and Olivia said in unison. The pier at dawn was cold and misty, the kind of atmospheric setting that seemed made for confrontations. Taejun stood alone at the end of the dock, his coat billowing in the river breeze. 50 feet back, Olivia and Grace sat in the armored SUV with Min Jae behind the wheel, the engine running. Kang Jae-won appeared from the mist like a ghost. Prison had hardened him. His face was gaunt, his eyes cold, his movements tightly controlled. He carried a gun openly, not bothering to conceal it. He looked to be in his early 40s now, but moved like someone much older. Cousin, Jae-won said, the word dripping with venom. Did you bring your new family to watch you die? I brought them to witness the truth, Taejun replied calmly. About what your father did. About the conspiracy that destroyed both our lives. My father was a great man who you betrayed. Your father was a murderer who orchestrated the fake death of the woman I loved to steal control of our family. Taejun interrupted. And I can prove it. For the next 20 minutes, Taejun laid out everything. The faked identification records. The agent, who was actually one of his uncle's men. The way Jae-won's father had manipulated Taejun's grief to seize power. He showed phone records, testimonies from people his investigators had found over the years, evidence that painted a picture of calculated betrayal. From the SUV, Olivia watched Jae-won's expression cycle through disbelief, anger, confusion, and finally, devastatingly recognition. He'd known something was wrong, had probably suspected for years, but had been too loyal to his father's memory to admit it. He used you too, Taejun said quietly. Filled your head with lies about me. Turned you into a weapon aimed at the wrong target. Your father didn't just destroy my family, Jae-won. He destroyed yours. So what? Jae-won's voice cracked. You want me to apologize? Shake hands and pretend 20 years in prison didn't happen? No, Taejun said. I want you to stop carrying hatred that was never yours to begin with. I want you to have a choice. The choice your father never gave either of us. Walk away, Jae-won. Start over. Or... He paused, his hand moving near his concealed weapon. We end this here, and another generation of Kangs dies for sins that aren't their own. The gun in Jae-won's hand trembled. Olivia held her breath, watching a man at a crossroads. Revenge or redemption? Hatred or healing? Then Jae-won lowered his weapon. I'm tired, he said, and he sounded it exhausted down to his bones. I'm so damn tired of being angry, of living in my father's shadow, of letting his choices define my life. Then don't, Taejun said simply. Jae-won looked past Taejun to the SUV where Grace and Olivia waited. That's them, he said. Your woman and your daughter. That's my family, Taejun confirmed. Something shifted in Jae-won's expression. My father took that from you. Took it from all of you. He holstered his gun. I won't make that mistake. I won't become him. The tension broke like a snapped wire. Jae-won turned and walked away, disappearing back into the mist. Taejun stood alone for a moment, then made his way back to the SUV. When he opened the door, Grace launched herself at him, checking for injuries, making sure he was truly unharmed. Olivia felt tears streaming down her face, relief and disbelief mixing into something like hope. It's over, Taejun said, pulling them both close. Min Jae cleared his throat. Boss, We should still get somewhere secure. Just because Jaewon walked away doesn't mean— I know, Taejun said. And in that cold dawn on an abandoned pier in Seoul, a family that had been fractured for 24 years finally came together. 6 months later, Olivia stood in the kitchen of her mother's new house. Not a mansion like Taejun's compound, but a beautiful Hanok-style home in a safe neighborhood of Sungbuk-dong. With actual neighbors, and a garden Grace was already filling with flowers. The tattoo on Olivia's forearm was still fresh, the phoenix design slightly modified from her parents' matching ink, but clearly part of the same family of symbols. Hers had a small flame at the base that neither of her parents' versions included, representing the new generation rising. You didn't have to get it, Grace said, though her eyes were bright with emotion. I wanted to, Olivia replied, touching the healing skin gently. We all rose from something, right? Might as well have the reminder. The doorbell rang, and Olivia opened it to find Taejun carrying bags of groceries. He developed a habit of showing up for Sunday dinners, claiming he'd forgotten what home-cooked meals tasted like. Nobody believed him, but nobody called him on it either. Your mother texted me, Taejun said by way of greeting, setting the bags on the counter. Said you have news. Olivia exchanged a glance with Grace, who smiled encouragingly. I got accepted, she announced. Full scholarship to Seoul National University Medical School. Following in Mom's footsteps. Taejun's face transformed with pride. Olivia, that's incredible. We should celebrate. I'll make reservations at— Dad. Olivia interrupted, using the title that still felt new, but increasingly natural. We are celebrating. Here, with Mom's cooking, and maybe a decent bottle of wine. Just us. Just us, Taejun repeated softly, as if testing the phrase. Then, that gentle smile that Grace had fallen in love with decades ago. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. As the afternoon shifted into evening, Olivia watched her parents move around each other in the kitchen. With increasing ease, passing ingredients, sharing private smiles, occasionally touching in ways that spoke of rediscovered intimacy. They were dating, technically, taking things slow after so much time apart. But Olivia could see the end game written in every glance, every gentle touch. Her phone buzzed with a text from Maya. Asterisk. Still can't believe your dad is the Kang Taejun. Your life is literally a drama. Asterisk. Right, pro center. Asterisk. Olivia smiled and typed back. Asterisk. More like a second chance for all of us. Asterisk. Asterisk. Because that's what this was. Not a fairy tale ending, but a hard-won opportunity to rebuild what had been stolen. Taejun still ran his organization, though with Grace's influence, he'd been slowly shifting toward legitimate businesses. Grace had returned to nursing part-time at a community clinic, finding joy again in work she'd loved. And Olivia was learning to balance her two worlds. The daughter of both a nurse and a crime lord, belonging fully to both. What are you thinking about? Grace asked, catching Olivia's distant expression. Just that we're lucky, Olivia said honestly. It took 24 years and a random tattoo sighting, but we found our way back to each other. Taejun raised his wine glass. To random tattoo sightings. To impossible chances, Grace added, touching her phoenix tattoo. To the family we lost and found again, Taejun continued. To rising from the ashes, Olivia finished. They clinked glasses as the sun set over Seoul. 3 people who'd been broken apart by lies and brought together by truth. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. Nothing about their situation was simple or conventional, but they had something that had survived decades of separation, grief, and loss. They had each other, and this time, nothing would tear them apart. Grace leaned into Taejun's side as he wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Olivia watched them with a full heart, seeing not what was lost, but what was found. I love you both, Grace said softly. We love you too, Olivia and Taejun replied in unison. And in that moment, In that kitchen filled with the smell of home-cooked food and the warmth of family, Olivia understood something profound. Some love stories don't end. They pause. They wait. They survive in hidden tattoos and unspoken prayers, and the hope that someday, somehow, the pieces will find their way back together. Her parents had waited 24 years, but they'd made it home. The phoenix had risen, and this time, it would never fall again. Share this story with someone who believes in second chances. That lost love can be found. That family is worth fighting for. Comment below. Would you bridge the gap between separated lovers? What would you risk to reunite your family? Subscribe for more stories about love that survives decades and families that find their way home.